Hey guys, Captain here. Today I'm bringing you another one of my LEGO creations. Last week I had the legendary Pokemon Dialga, and today I've got its counterpart, Palkia. Palkia is not quite as many pieces as Dialga, but it's still about 160, and it's a very similar scale. I think it turned out quite nicely. We got a lot of the details right, and without further ado, let's get started on the instructions. The torso and the tail are pretty closely connected, so let's just begin with the tail. We're going to take a magenta 1x4 plate, and then beneath it place two white hinge plates, and then at the end of one of them place a 1x3 magenta plate, and the other one a 2x3 magenta wedge, and then layer this up with more hinge plates. This will be the center of the tail. At the end here, on top of the 1x3 on top, place a 1x2 white curved slope and a 1x1 white tile, and on the other side, an inverted curved slope and a 1x1 plate. In this middle segment, on top place a 1x2 bracket, and on the bottom an inverted 1x2 bracket, both in white. And then on top of those place a 1x3 tile centered so that these little columns here actually are in the holes of the bracket. And then on the piece closer to this tip of the tail, place 1x1 white plates, and on this piece place 1x1 magenta plates. Then what you'll do, both in front and behind the wedge, you'll place a corner plate, and in between a 1x2 white plate. So we have that together, and then top this off with more wedges. Now we're going to do something, this was a technique that I used in Dialga's head. You're going to take a 1x2 bracket. The color doesn't really matter because it'll be fully hidden, but I use light gray because that's what I have a lot of. And you'll have one attached and one will just sit here. The reason we're not using an inverted bracket is because we actually want to utilize these studs here. And what you'll do is you will take a 2x2 bracket in dark gray and hold these together. And this is something that, again, the math I think is supposed to work out fine, but the error tolerance on how the pieces were actually molded might come into play. I went through my collection to find some brackets where they don't really pop out much, but again, it might actually be a really tight fit, so you'll probably have to experiment around because we're really talking about fractions of millimeters here. Anyways, hold this together a little more stable with a 2x2 white curved slope. Set this down for a moment. What we'll do is we'll take two of these 1 2/3 height modified bricks in dark gray with studs on the front. Hold that together with a 2x2 dark gray plate. On the lower end, place a 1x2 dark gray plate, and then two of these 1x2 curved slopes. And then also take a plate, brick, and another plate, stack them up together to be 1 2/3 height in dark gray. Now what we'll do is we'll place this on top of this bracket here. Top this off with a 2x3 plate in white. On the back side of that, place a 1x2 brick, and then this is like a 1x2 cheese slope, but you can just use two regular cheese slopes in white. And then on the front side, place 4 modified 1x1 white bricks with a stud on one side. Hold that together by topping it off with a 2x2 white plate. And then on top centered, a magenta jumper plate, and in front of that a white jumper plate. And then on these front 1x1 bricks, on the side place magenta tiles, 1x2 tiles, and kind of try and center the height so it really lines up with the majority of the structure. And then we'll be able to attach the limbs and the head. Both of the legs are the same, but just mirrored. What you'll do is you'll start with 2 of these 1x2 claw tiles in white. Stick a pneumatic T-bar into the claws. Let that down for a moment. Take a 1x1 white brick with a stud on one side and a 1x1 white brick with the studs on 2 adjacent sides. And stick them on top of each other. So you basically have 3 adjacent sides covered like this. What you'll do now is on the studs with the top brick with the 2 adjacent sides, you'll place 1x3 tiles in white, and then you'll place one of these rounded white plates with the segmented bar. Stick that facing downwards and a 1x1 white tile to top that off. Set that down for a moment. For the foot, what you'll do is you'll take a 2x2 magenta wedge plate. On the front, you'll place a 1x2 white bracket, and on the back, a 1x1 white bracket. And then top this off with a angled or a corner white slope brick. On the front here, on the 1x2, place one of these 1x2 slopes with the pointed tip in white. On the back, place a magenta 1x1 tile. On top here, place a white claw tile, and then attach our segmented bar. And then what you'll do is you will take a white dish, stick it facing this way into the T-bar, and attach it to the side of the leg. So that the dish stud actually attaches to the side stud here. And the same thing for the other leg, but mirrored. I'm actually quite happy with how the legs for Palkia turned out. I was able to pretty adequately capture the range of motion I wanted, both in the knee joint and in the hip joint. And I think that visually, all the main details are there. I would say probably the only biggest visual details with Palkia that I didn't get to capture how I wanted to are, firstly, the color is really hard to replicate in Lego because Palkia is technically a bit of like a light pink color, but that sort of shade just doesn't really exist in Lego bricks. I mean, it probably does, but with very limited part selection. And so I figured white with magenta would make it pop a little better. And the other part is with the wings. I wasn't super satisfied, but I think it turned out well enough. Anyways, now we've got both of our legs almost assembled, and we can attach them to the torso. So the reason earlier we wanted this bracket to have studs facing outwards on both sides is because we're going to attach the legs this way with the 1x2 claw tiles holding onto there. And so on this side, it won't be as stable, but it'll still have at least one stud to attach to. And that way, we get our legs. One of the nice things about the tail is it makes it very easy to balance Palkia because it basically just acts as another point of contact with the ground. Although if you wanted, you could actually still find ways to balance it without even having to have the tail come in contact. Palkia's shoulder piece is actually the first part of Palkia that I tried to design, and I went through a couple iterations trying to figure out how to make it work, and I came across a technique that I thought was really cool and lends itself almost perfectly to the job. So what you're going to do is you're going to, and you'll build this twice, but for each one you'll take 6 of these rounded 2x2 plates in white, and what you'll do is you'll basically stack them one above each other, or beneath and above each other to make a hexagon. You can start by just making a line and kind of bending it towards you and then fixing the shape a little bit, just pressing around to make a pretty good hexagon. And what you'll do then is you will take these magenta tiles, which are more or less semicircle shaped. They're rounded on 2 corners and pointed at 2 corners. and you'll stick them at the end so that the round point faces inwards. And this is going to act as Palkia's shoulder, which will then attach to the arms, which again are mirrored. So what you'll do for each arm is begin with another one of these rounded 1x2 plates in dark gray and place it in one of these studs. Then you will take a hinged plate in dark gray, hold it together with another one of these 1x2s. And it is important to use these rounded 1x2s here because we are going to place a bar through this hole. And then what you'll do is you'll stack up a tile here in white, 1x1 tile. You'll build a hand, which is going to be a 2x3 plate in white, magenta tile, and then 1x2 tooth plate, and attach that like so. And like I said, you're going to do this twice. It's going to be mirrored. Just make sure you attach the hinges, so they bend properly each time. And then finally, in terms of attaching to the torso, I think the easiest way to probably approach this is to take a translucent orange stud with a hole in it and place a 3-length bar through it, and then stick that here through kind of the center hole, and try and have the bar roughly reach the end of the translucent stud. You don't really want it to go through. You don't want it to stick out in excess. And try and press that down about as far as you can so the stud is about equal with this tile layer. And you'll do that twice, one for each arm. And then on the other side, you'll place a white stud with the hole in it. And that's simply going to attach to these modified 1x1 bricks on the side of Palkia's body. Alright, for the head, let's start with a magenta 1x2 plate. In the back, place an inverted 1x1 bracket. In the front, a 1x2 white plate. Hold this together with another magenta plate. On this end here, place 1x1 white plates on the top and bottom. And in the bottom, another 1x2 white plate. On top of that, place a white 1x1 Technic brick. Attach a Travis brick into the hole using one of the sides. Underneath the Travis brick, place a 1x1 plate with this ring on the end that has studs. In the front, place a 1x1 magenta tile. On the sides, orange translucent studs. On the rings, place 2 white studs on each side, or 1 white stud on each side, and then cover that with a tooth plate. And on top, another tooth plate. And then layer this up with these slope plates. These are 1x1 slopes, but they have a point in the center. So you have 4 of them, and this will make the core structure of Palkia's face and head. Now what you'll do on the back of this inverted bracket, place a white Travis brick, claw tiles on each side, and then take 2 of these wing pieces, which I think were featured pretty prominently in Ninjago sets and maybe some other series, and attach them. The wings are probably the only part of Palkia that I'm not super satisfied with, but I think ultimately this element gets the job done in a way that's very distinctly Lego and still looks pretty nice. But technically the wings should be attached more so to the upper torso, and the shape should be a little different. But, again, I'm happy enough with this, and I think Palkia still looks really good. Finally, This gap is left here so we can attach those 2 jumper plates on top of the torso. And with that, Palkia is complete. Really hope you enjoyed this build. I think it's one of my finest. If you did, I encourage you to leave this video a like, comment, subscribe, send this to your friends. Check out my other videos, especially Dialga, which I published just last week. And I will see you guys next time.